Hello, and welcome back to Bedtime Fables. The world has tucked itself under a soft, white blanket of snow, and the time for quiet, cozy, indoor stories has arrived. Tonight, our story is about a very small creature with a very big heart, who learns that the best way to warm yourself is to bring a little light and happiness to someone else. So let your breathing grow soft and slow as our story begins. Flickerwick was a matchstick maker, but he was not like the other matchstick makers of the world. His little home was a cozy, dry hollow he had made inside an old, forgotten storybook, and his workshop was filled with the most unusual and magical of materials. He did not use ordinary wood, but tiny, silvery twigs he gathered from the lone birch tree in the city park. Twigs that seemed to hold the light of the moon in their very bark. And he did not dip his matches in the hot, fiery substance of the human world. His secret ingredient was something much gentler. It was a tiny pot of crystallized hope, a shimmering golden substance he would gather from the fallen pollen of the last brave dandelion of autumn. He was a craftsman of the highest order, and every matchstick he made was a tiny, perfect work of art, created with a deep and loving purpose. In the heart of a great big city, where the buildings were as tall as mountains and the streets were as wide as rivers, the winter had arrived. It came on a quiet grey afternoon, and it brought with it a deep and biting cold and a soft, silent, and endless snowfall. The snow covered everything in a beautiful, pristine white blanket, making the world look clean and new. But for the smallest, most forgotten creatures of the city, the snow was not just beautiful. It was a cold and lonely thing. In a small, sheltered doorway, out of the reach of the falling flakes, a tiny mouse named Flickerwick watched the world turn white. He was a small mouse with a very big heart, and as he watched the warm, golden lights of the cozy houses glow through their frosty windows, he felt a deep pang of sadness. He knew that even in those warm, comfortable homes, there were hearts that were feeling a little bit cold, minds that were a little bit worried, and dreams that were in need of a little bit of light. And he knew that he, a tiny, scruffy mouse, had a very special and very important job to do on a cold, snowy night. Flickerwick's matches were magical. They did not create a fire to warm cold hands. They created a light to warm a cold heart. When one of his special, silvery matchsticks was struck, it did not burst into flame. Instead, it would release a single, perfect, and beautiful orb of warm, golden light. And this little orb of light was not just a light, it was a story. It would expand and shimmer, and within it, you would not see a flickering flame, but a tiny, moving picture, a silent, beautiful movie of a perfect, happy ending. One match might show the ending of a story about a little lost seed that finally grows into a magnificent flower. Another might show the moment a shy, lonely little girl finally makes a new, kind friend. Flickerwick did not make matches of fire. He was the little matchstick maker of happy endings. On this cold and snowy night, he knew his work was more important than ever. He carefully bundled up a dozen of his most beautiful, most powerful, and most hopeful matchsticks. Tying them with a piece of red thread he had found, he wrapped his own little, patched red scarf tightly around his neck, took a deep breath, and then, with a heart full of a quiet, determined courage, he stepped out from his cozy doorway and into the great, white, silent world. He knew where he had to go. He was not looking for food or for warmth for himself. He was looking for windows, for the windows of the sad and the lonely, for the windows of the children who might be having a worried or a difficult dream. The journey to the high window was a great and difficult climb. He was not a mountain mouse, but tonight, the great brick wall of the house was his own personal Everest. He found a thick, strong vine of ancient ivy, its leaves now covered in a soft, white blanket of snow, and he began to climb. His little claws gripped the rough bark, and his brave little heart was focused on his destination. The cold wind tried to push him away, and the soft, powdery snow tried to make him slip. But he held on tight, his gaze fixed on the warm, lonely, golden square of the window high, high above him. His tiny paws made almost no sound on the fresh, soft snow. The city was a giant, sleeping beast, its great, rumbling sounds now softened to a gentle, quiet hum. He passed by many houses, their windows dark and peaceful, their families all safe, and sound and deep in happy dreams. But then he saw it. High up, at the very top of a tall, grand house, was a single, small window, and it was still lit. It was a small, lonely light in a great sea of darkness, and Flickerwick knew, with the deep, empathetic certainty of his kind little heart, that this was where he was needed most. At last, his long climb was over. He reached the snowy windowsill and shook the cold, white flakes from his fur. He crept to the edge of the glass and peeked inside. The room was a small, simple attic bedroom, and on a little bed, a young girl was sitting up, hugging her pillow tightly. Her face was wet with tears, and her shoulders were shaking with quiet, lonely sobs. She had woken from a bad dream, a dream full of scary shadows and sad, forgotten feelings, and now, in the deep quiet of the night, she felt like she was the only person awake in the whole wide, sleeping world. Flickerwick's heart ached for the sad little girl. He knew he could not go inside. He knew he could not speak to her. But he could give her a gift. He could give her a happy ending. He untied his little bundle and took out his first magical matchstick. He found a rough spot on the brick beside the window, and with a quick, sure flick of his paw, he struck it. The match did not flare with a hot, bright flame. Instead, it released a single, perfect, and beautiful orb of the warmest, most gentle, golden light which hovered in the cold night air, pulsing with a soft and hopeful glow. The little girl, hearing the tiny flick, looked up from her tear-soaked pillow, her sad eyes growing wide with wonder. The little orb of light began to tell its story. Inside the golden glow, a moving picture appeared. It showed a tiny, fluffy, orange kitten who was stuck high in the branches of a tall tree, mewing sadly in a cold, gentle rain. The little girl watched, her own heart feeling a little bit of the kitten's fear. But then, the picture changed. It showed a kind, strong firefighter climbing a tall ladder and gently, carefully, lifting the little kitten into his big, safe hands. The last thing the story showed was the little kitten, now safe on the ground, being wrapped in a warm, dry, and wonderfully cozy blanket, its fearful mews replaced by a deep, happy, and rumbling purr. It was a story of being lost, and then being found, of being scared, and then being safe. It was a perfect, happy ending. The little girl watched, completely mesmerized, as she saw the little kitten being wrapped in its warm, safe blanket. She felt a little bit of that same warmth spread through her own heart. The sad, spiky feelings from her bad dream began to melt away, replaced by the gentle, comforting feeling of the happy story. Her quiet, lonely sobs stopped. She took a long, shaky breath, and then another, and she felt her own little body begin to relax. The golden light of the story pulsed one last time, a final, warm, and happy purr, and then, as softly as it had appeared, it faded away into the snowy night. The little girl was no longer crying, but Flickerwick could see that a shadow of her worry still remained in her big, sad eyes. He knew that sometimes one happy ending was not quite enough, so he took out another of his special matches. This one was carved from a piece of birch that had grown by a quiet, burbling stream, and he knew it held a particularly peaceful story. He struck it on the rough brick, and this time the orb of light that appeared was not a warm gold, but a cool, calm, and beautiful blue-green, the color of a still forest pool. The little girl leaned closer to her window, her sadness almost completely forgotten, her heart now full of a gentle, hopeful curiosity. This new story was a quieter one. It showed a little turtle, so shy that it was afraid to poke its head out of its own safe, sturdy shell. The little girl, who was sometimes a little bit shy herself, knew just how the turtle felt. But then, another, bigger turtle came along. It did not tap on the little turtle's shell or try to force it to come out. It simply waited, patiently and kindly, and it nudged a beautiful, bright red, and perfectly ripe strawberry close to the shell's opening. Slowly, very slowly, the little shy turtle poked its head out, and then, feeling safe, it took a tiny, brave bite of the sweet, shared treat. It was a story of patience, and of quiet friendship, and of the courage to be yourself. As she watched the story of the shy, brave little turtle, a deep and profound sense of peace washed over the little girl. All the last little bits of her own shyness and her own worries seemed to melt away completely. She felt understood. She felt safe. A great, big, wonderful, and very sleepy yawn stretched her mouth wide. Her body felt heavy and warm, and so very, very relaxed. She lay her head back down on her soft, cool pillow, her eyes growing heavier with each passing moment. The beautiful, blue-green story pulsed one last, peaceful time, and then it too faded into the soft, snowy darkness. Flickerwick, a very small, kind, and hopeful mouse with soft, scruffy, grey-brown fur, large, expressive, dark eyes full of empathy, and a tiny patched up and slightly oversized dark red woolen scarf peeked into the window one last time. The little girl was fast asleep, a peaceful, happy smile on her face. His work here was done. With a happy, contented sigh of his own, he carefully tied up his remaining matches and began his long, slow journey back down the snowy vine. The wind was still cold, and the snow was still deep, but he did not feel it. His heart was so full of a warm, glowing feeling, the feeling of a kindness shared and a sadness soothed, that he felt as warm and as cozy as if he were already tucked into his own little bed. When he reached the bottom of the Great Wall, tired from his long climb, he found a wonderful surprise waiting for him. Sitting on a dry patch of stone, sheltered from the snow, was a single, perfect chocolate chip. It was a treasure of unimaginable deliciousness for a little mouse. He looked up, and he saw, in one of the downstairs windows, the little girl's grandmother. She had been woken by her granddaughter's crying, and she had seen the magical, little lights outside the window. She did not understand what she had seen, but she knew it had been a kindness, and so she had left a small kindness of her own. In return, she smiled at Flickerwick, a silent, secret, and grateful smile. Flickerwick gave the kind old woman a respectful nod, and then, with his great treasure held tightly in his paws, He scurried all the way home through the silent, snowy streets. Back in his own cozy, quiet, and safe little home, he sat down for a well-earned, celebratory feast. The chocolate chip was the most delicious, the most wonderful, and the most magical treat he had ever tasted. It tasted of sweetness, and of warmth, and of the beautiful, shared kindness between a little mouse, a little girl, and a wise old grandmother. With his tummy full of chocolate and his heart full of happiness, the little matchstick maker finally went to his own bed. He curled up on his soft, cotton ball mattress, pulled his little red scarf up to his chin, and with a final, sleepy sigh, he drifted off to sleep. And as he slept, he dreamed. He did not dream of sad girls or cold nights. He dreamed of a world filled with nothing but warm, gentle, golden lights. A world where every single story had a perfect, happy ending. And now, as the little matchstick maker dreams his happy dreams, it is time for you to find the happy, peaceful ending to your own long day. It is time to let go of any sad or worried feelings, and to let the gentle, magical light of the night fill your mind with the coziest, most comforting, and most wonderful thoughts as you get ready for a deep and peaceful sleep. Imagine a warm, golden, and gentle light is all around you. It is a light made of pure kindness and happy stories. Feel its wonderful, sleepy warmth as it spreads through your whole body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. It is a light that melts away all the shadows, all the worries, and all the busy thoughts, leaving only a deep, profound, and wonderfully heavy feeling of complete and utter peace. Listen to the quiet, peaceful rhythm of your own breathing. Let it be as slow and as steady as the gentle, pulsing glow of a magical, happy ending. A long, soft breath in, filling you with warmth and peace, ... And a long, sleepy breath out, letting go of everything. This ancient, peaceful rhythm is the lullaby of your own heart, and it is telling every single part of you that it is time to let go, and it is time to sleep. The whole city is sleeping now. Every house is quiet. Every street is empty. The great, white blanket of snow has hushed the entire world into a deep and peaceful slumber. The little girl is sleeping, dreaming of brave turtles, and the little mouse is sleeping, dreaming of happy endings. Everyone is safe, everyone is warm, and everyone is at peace. You are so very sleepy now. Your mind is quiet. Your body is still. You are ready to let go and float away into the beautiful, peaceful, and magical land of your own dreams. It is a wonderful place, made just for you, where every story has a happy ending. You are almost there. Just let yourself drift now. Thank you for sharing a little light with us at Bedtime Fables. There is always a new, magical story waiting to bring a little warmth to the night. If you would like to be here for it, you can ask your grown-up to tap the subscribe button so we can all meet again. Until then, may all your own stories have the happiest of endings. Good night.